on. Is it time to call a general election? Well, the Tories suffered historic losses in local elections, of course, last week, experiencing their worst electoral results in many, many years. But in the wake of dire results, the Work and Pension Secretary has ruled out a snap summer general election, with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak saying he's absolutely determined to fight on. Well, GBNews, the People's Channel, has been out and about asking what you think.
I don't think there should be a general election at the moment because obviously due to the current situations around the world, due to the conflicts in Gaza, everything, we should focus on the humanity around the world and helping out the world. So obviously we should focus on these things first.
100%. It's an absolute nightmare. That's what I've got to say. It just needs to stop, doesn't it?
Yes, I do, because everything's so uncertain at the moment. Just get it sorted. Whoever's in power, give them a chance and see how it goes.
Well, I do think there should be a general election, definitely. It's difficult to say who to vote for, but it certainly wouldn't be Tories.
Yes, I do. I think there should be a general election because I don't think there's been a elected Prime Minister in a long time.
Well, joining now to discuss this is the former Labour MP, Stephen Pounds. Stephen, welcome to the show. Always a delight. As Brenda from Bristol would say, oh, God, not another one. But, Stephen, we have to have one sooner or later. The question is, when?
Well, in all honesty, Martin, there's a case to be made for merciful killing on this particular case because you've got a zombie government mired in sleaze and scandal, staggering from one horror show to another. But you know and I know it ain't going to happen. At the moment, what's the thing? LBJ said, Lyndon Johnson said, the first lesson you learn in politics is how to add up. And the maths just don't make it happen. First of all, the Prime Minister, he's in his Mr. Micawber road. Remember Mr. Micawber from David Copperfield, whose motto was, well, something might turn up. If you actually look at parliamentary arithmetic, the DUP, their former leader, was in court last week. The last thing they want is an election. The SNP are all over the shop. There's no way they're going to want an election. The one Green, they got their own issues with, on the one hand, you've got people shouting Allah Akbar when they get elected. On the other hand, they're calling for the ban on halal meat, which is going to be a tricky one. George Galloway certainly doesn't want one because he'll be out the door come the next election. So as what it leaves down to is the Tory MPs. Now, look, a lot of them know, in all honesty, they're not total fools. They know that there's over 100 of them are going to lose their seats at the next election. Are they going to give up 6 months of salary? Because don't forget, we all think in politics that we should put country first, constituency second and party third. Well, a fair few people on those green benches actually put the wallet first. And I don't honestly think they're going to give that up. So the reality is the maths just don't make sense. We can't have an election now because as we come into the summer season, we can't have an election, we have to have an election before next January. Now, it ain't going to be in January, it ain't going to be over Christmas. Therefore, I think, as ever, Liam Halligan has put his slide rule right where it needs to go, and he's indicated November, round about November the 14th. That is, I think, the most likely date.
Yeah, I think the smart money is on that. Let the hullabaloo of the American presidential election get out of the way first. Of course, that is November the 5th, literally fireworks night. Of course, Ed Davey is stamping his feet today, demanding a general election, but there's more chance of that happening than me becoming an astronaut, Stephen. And it wasn't interesting how you said that.
An astronaut. Let's be honest about that. Look, I mean, Ed Davey, I have to say, if he spent half as much time actually trying to do some good for the country as he does in creating these ludicrous, ridiculous photo opportunities, smashing down blue brick walls and dressing people up as dinosaurs and all that nonsense. The Liberal Democrats don't need any help to be made stupid and risible. But on the other hand, they're making a pretty damn good job of it. So, I used to get on fine well with Ed. Ed and I were both in the House of Commons when we were both inveterate secret smokers. And we didn't gather behind the bike sheds, but we gathered behind any sheds we could find, to puff on a fag from time to time. I like the bloke, he's a nice guy. But, he's leading a party that, doesn't know where it's going, tries to face both ways. And, it's like Mr. Push Me, Pull You. The reality is that I think you're absolutely right, Martin, not for the first time. I think we're looking at November. But what the government is hoping for, and Liam said earlier on, I think this Friday we might have this the smidgen of good news. It's not even good news; it's just not awful news. So it is less awful than it was. We were in recession. We're the only European country, the only advanced economy in recession. We might be out of recession by 0.005 of GDP. Well, bells and whistles, matey. I mean, that makes us worse off than Poland. And fair play to the plucky Poles. But I don't actually think that they should be the comparator for our economy in this country.
Now, Stephen, I know that being charitable to the Conservatives might come difficult to you, but let's try that for a moment, because not only is it drawing your salary for a few extra months to procrastinate to put the election later, but as you just said, there could be good news economically. Those green shoots could come. We might actually see the boats slowing down. So therefore, there's a good common sense reason to delay that general election date.
Look, in reality, that isn't going to happen because it'll just be one crisis after another. And the chap who said, when you look at earlier on in your Vox Pop about what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in South Sudan, what's happening on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, what's happening all over the flipping world at the moment, we actually need a bit of stability, not necessarily the chaos that would occur. However, as a patriot first, and genuinely I am, I would actually desperately like to see this country doing better. At the moment, we do look a bit like a laughing stock. We've had, 4 prime ministers in 5 or 6 years. It's a ridiculous situation. If there's any chance of the economy improving, and if there's any chance of people's standard of living getting better, I think in the long term it's going to be Rachel Reeves that does it. But in the meantime, if it does happen, then fair play, give the government a fair following wind, because in all honesty, the pound in people's pockets and the food on people's tables is a damn sight more important than party political advantage. I happen to believe that one party can deliver that food on the table. You know that, I know that. However, I'd like to see if the government has got a plan and can do something about it, then let's back them and say in the next 6 months there's going to have to be an election anyway. So is it really the end of the world if we put it off till then? Maybe after the Euros. Why not? We'll all be watching that, won't we?
Yeah, and if we win, there might be a feel-good factor. Stephen Pound, always great value.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us on the show. Superb.